Hey folks, welcome back to another review with yours truly, Sam Healey. Today we're taking a look at this little fella right here, Sky Heist from GaGa Games. And it is basically a game where you each are taking on the roles of air bandits that are attacking a sky bank, an air bank, with these planes, and you're trying to, of course, steal the loot from the bank. Problem is that the sheriff has been alerted to your presence, and he is on the way to stop you and thwart that loot-grabbing event of robbing the air bank. So you're trying to load the loot pile as much as possible and grab the loot before the sheriff shows up and kills the party, basically. So let's get down to the table. I'll show you how it plays, and we'll come back for my final thoughts in just a few moments. Let's get to it. So here I have set up for you a 4-player game of Sky Heist. Now what happens first is that you deal 6 cards out to every player, and then you take the 4 sheriff cards and you shuffle them into the deck that is remaining. Now the deck is made up of cards, a number of different things. There's a share of cards that we draw, that we shuffled into them, but they have number cards, they have joker cards that basically replicate any number that you want it to when it's in your revolver. There are number cards from 1 to 9. There are also, let's see here, other kinds of text cards that take place at certain times. There are also event cards that you can play during your turn on other players or to help you further your own cause and so forth and so on. And so on your turn you can basically do one of just a few things. So on your turn you can do any number of turns, but you have to do at least one action. And that action could be to place things in the loot pile, discard cards from the loot pile. Now, in order to do that, you can just put 1 card face down, no worries. Or if you wanted to, you could put 2 cards of the same number down, or any number of cards that have the same number, or you could also add numbers together that make up a sum value. For example, 3 plus 3 equals 6. So you could put those 3 cards down in there. And then you would draw 3 cards up at the end of your turn. But during your turn and other people's turns, you can also load your revolver. So if I wanted to play those 3 into the discard pile and then put the 7 down here, I could do that. And then I would draw back up to 6 cards. This card is still counting as being part of my hand though, so I would have 1, 2, 3 cards. I would still only draw 3 cards into my hand, and then my turn would be done. Now other things that you can do is on your turn is play an event card like substitution here. Substitution says take 2 cards at random from any opponent's hand and then give them 2 of your choice. So if I wanted to on this person's turn, I could play that out here, and then I'll say I'll pick this guy. So he has to give me 2 cards at random, and those go to my hand, and then I'll give him 2 cards of my choice right back at him, and so forth and so on. Then I can also play things down here if I wanted to, so I'll play that into the loot pile. And then I'll also load my revolver, and this one will go into my hand as well. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4 cards. I would draw 2 into my hand, and that would be over. So on this third person's turn over here, let's see. Ooh, wow. Okay, so we have... this looks like a good hand to simply... I'm going to do 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 3. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to play 1 into my revolver, and then I'm going to draw 4 cards. Now, when a sheriff card is drawn, it never goes into somebody's hand. It just gets played face up. So now the sheriff has gotten a little bit closer to where we are. But I still get to replace. So I need to draw 1, 2, 3, and 4 cards into my hand, which means I have 5, 6, I'm good to go. And this person wants to play the Indians event card, which says each of your opponents must put a random card from his revolver under the discard pile and then replace from the top. So what's going to happen here is everybody that has revolvers out here has to take a random card and place it underneath. Now, he has to draw a card off the top and put it into his hand, but a sheriff card reveals like so. And so then he has to replace this card. And it does also say that nobody can load his revolver until this is over. So even if he wanted to load this card into his revolver, he would not be able to until everybody else does it. Now, this guy's revolver only has one card in it, so he would do that, and that would go here. And this person has two in their revolver, so one goes under and another one goes into their hand. Now, that effect is over. Everybody can load their revolver at this point if they wanted to, but I don't think that that's going to be the case. Now that two sheriff cards have shown up, though, anybody can start a shooting on their turn. Now, starting a shooting is another thing that you can do on your turn, but you can't do it until at least two sheriff cards are showed up. So that's why I've waited until now to tell you about it. Now, starting a shooting simply means that you're going to slap the loot pile, and then everybody else has to slap in as quickly as possible, because the last person that puts their hand on the loot pile, it doesn't get anything out of that. So let's say that so he's done with this, and he's not actually done with his turn, so he's going to slap down. Then everybody else will have done it, and then we turn over our revolver cards to see who gets the most loot. So let's say that, just for simplicity's sake, he slapped first, second, and then third. So this guy, he is out. All of his cards go away. He doesn't get anything for the loot. He slapped first, which means that this joker actually doesn't do him any good. But he does have some of these other cards that are out there. Now, these two guys slapped second and third. So this card will be played first, and he's going to negate this card. All right, that's what the mist does. You can take one of the highest, choose any one card of the highest value. Well, this is highest. The sevens are highest, so he chooses that card to get rid of. Now, it is possible that if you have the highest card, that you have to discard one of your own cards, which is kind of wonky, but that's how it goes. And then this person says, you know what? I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to have him lose his card, like so. Now, what happens here, he was the fastest, but now he has the best gun. So he's going to be able to choose half of this loot first. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for him. And then he passes the cards to this guy, and he takes half rounded up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 3. And then this person would also get 3. Now, the numbers on the back side of these don't matter at all. One card is 1 point. So he will have gotten 7, 3, and 3 points. That's the total for the round. All of the cards are driven back up, and a new round is started just like the first round. You do that for 6 rounds, and whoever has the most points at the end of 6 rounds is the winner. So that is Sky Heist. It's just a really simple card game that you can play with just about anybody that can recognize sets of numbers and all of this kind of stuff, and be able to, discard cards to the loot pile in the correct manner and all of that kind of stuff. It's not a difficult game at all. It's super light. My biggest thing with it is it has that whole slapping the deck thing in it, and I just don't like that. If you're playing it with somebody who has long nails, you can actually get cut. If you're playing with somebody who doesn't know their own strength, you can actually get hurt, possibly even damaged by them slapping the pile after you have. There's just a whole number of things that I just don't like about slap the deck kind of games. Just too... The potential for bad things to happen is just bigger. Now, on top of that, there's a whole level of just randomness with the whole idea of drawing cards and getting, you could possibly not get good cards at all, so that just puts you further behind the curve when it comes to that loot sharing part way down the end of the round. Now, it could happen that those sheriff cards come up fast and the number of loot cards that are in the table aren't as many, so again, that's just another level of randomness that could mean that, yeah, that round went pretty fast, but didn't get a whole lot of points out of it either. Which brings me to another thing that I really don't like about it, and that's the fact that the last person who slaps the deck doesn't get anything. I mean, they're just totally out of the round just because they weren't as quick on the draw, so to speak, as everybody else was. And I understand that that's kind of a thematic thing because you have to be fast and you have to have good weapons. I understand all that, but it just doesn't, it's not fun for that person. One person is always going to be left out of the round, and it just, I just did not enjoy it at all. Furthermore, 6 rounds seems like it's a little bit too long for what it is, especially if those sheriff cards are at the bottom of the deck, or they're populated near the bottom of the deck. And I know that there's probably ways for you to spread them out a little bit more, but that's just more convolution that really isn't necessary in such a light card game, or at least it shouldn't be necessary. So all in all, I don't, well, there's no thinking about it. This is not a game for me. I didn't enjoy it at all. But I guess that it might have its place out there. I just don't know where it is, because there are other card games that have the same kind of feel to it, like Loot from Game Right. It has a very similar kind of feel to it, but you're not trying to slap a deck or anything like that. It's just trying to place cards in a way to get the most for your money, basically. So that would be one that I would probably steer people towards away from this one. I just didn't like it at all, and I really apologize for that. I just don't, man, it just wasn't fun. And I fear that a lot of people are going to agree with me. They might disagree with me, and that's always why I say try before you buy. You might enjoy it much, much more than I do. So please, go out and give it a try, give it a whirl, but hopefully you'll like it better than I do, but if not, I'm sorry. But that is Sky Heist from GaGa Games. Go give it a look. Maybe you'll like it, maybe you won't. See you on the flip side.